All right, so I want to talk about two different things. This is going to be a dual topic. The first one is going to be on payback, and the second one is going to be on the perception of God, our perception of God specifically. So it's come to my attention that there has been quite a bit on this with very little conversation and discussion on this. So as far as with payback goes, the Bible doesn't tell you to be passive and to not respond or simply to turn the cheek. There is context there, and I will link some Bible verses down below because it is important, but again, it's not really talked about, and when it is, it's only from a certain point of view. And only from a certain point of view, mind you. The thing is, there's also quite a few comments too I want to bring to mind as far as like the one that most people are familiar with, evil men prevail when good men do nothing. The thing is, the Bible wants us to remember that we are human, that we make mistakes. That's the first one. The second one is when you dwell on something and then you try to go to sleep and then you try to approach the same problem in the same mindset from the previous day, you're liable to get stuck and things are liable to get a lot worse. That's a problem. Now, it is understandable, just depending upon the circumstances, for you to be deeply impacted and having to take multiple days to try to change and to try to like overcome what just happened, to deal with or to process. That happens. That's understandable. But other humans, other people are not necessarily our enemy. It is stated in the Bible that the devil walks around like a roaring lion seeking to devour those he can. And that is referring to those who do not have protection, those who do not try to stand up for themselves, those who are easy to manipulate, to entrap, to pick on, to set up to fail. You could honestly pick your choice there. But in short, he goes after specific people because he can and because he knows he's going to succeed in that area. I want to say that if you want to respond back to others, there are right ways and methods to do so, not just simply because you want to get revenge. You want them to make them suffer the way you suffered. If you want to respond to someone else, to simply pay them back because you are being ignored by the law, by whenever you're taking your request to the city that you're at, the city council, or to the cops, that is something that should be acceptable because no one is standing up for your rights, and that is a matter that is simply fallen on your own lap. Now, there will be consequences, sure, but it being morally wrong to not respond when you are being violated in that way, I don't see any reason why you would be in trouble or morally wrong in that sense. But as I said, there will always be consequences, unfortunately. Now, in the case where you, myself, and many others have talked to those online who've gotten into verbal sparring contests where you've had people just verbally crapping all over you, yeah. So when I've responded back to some of those people, I've specifically approached it from the mindset of using them as more of a test dummy, as in, let me try this and see what works, see what the results are, because I know what kind of person they are and I know how they will respond. That is not necessarily right or wrong, but when they approach you and start something with you, well, I believe you are free to respond as you choose, as you see fit. Now, there's another method too, and that is simply paying back what you owe them. That is different from revenge because you take feelings and emotions outside of it. You may do some planning on how to best pay them back for what they did to you. I think the most common example is when someone has been wronged and they want to pay the other person back for what they did. Now, I don't encourage or what's the word? I do not support or encourage others to go this route, but it is understandable when they choose to do this simply because they want to pay the other person back. Some people, surprise, surprise, do not hold on to the emotions and feelings the way others do. We just, excuse me, not we, I'm not trying to lump myself there, but I do see from their perspective, and I do understand why this is how they are. They simply keep emotions and feelings out of the picture. They do not want to be clouded by anger. They want to be able to think clearly, proficiently. They want to be clean in that regards. They do not want to have their thinking muddled. And unfortunately, anger has a very real, there's a reality around anger where it does distort how you think as well as what you think. It narrows the point of view from which you can see things. With that said, the Bible, I'm going back to this again, the Bible does not talk about passivity as in simply not responding. It just wants you to understand that other humans are not your enemies and that there is a right way to respond and to help keep things from getting worse. Because as you know, everyone is at some stage in our lives, we are all quick to anger and slow to speak and slow to think and slow to process. That has caused many issues over the years and many complications that we all have to deal with, plain and simple. Now, for the other topic as far as our perception on God, I want to say that many choose, even if they don't realize it right now, but they choose to see God as if he is a father figure, a failed father figure, not just simply a father figure, but one who has been absent or someone who has allowed a lot of abuse in their life to happen. There is no denying that things are allowed to happen in our lives, but to simply pin it all on a being that you struggle to believe in, may struggle to believe in, or a being that you see is relatable to a father simply because they're both absent, I would question that. Simply because God is not housed in a human body, he is not that kind of father. You cannot assign just one role to that kind of being and expect it to stick and be only viewed and have him only being viewed through that lens. Now, I took a step back and I began to view God differently from just being what Christians and others on the outside refer to God as, as a father. He is much more than that, and seeing him farther away has allowed me a different perspective that I appreciate, plain and simple. He's a builder, he's a creator, and in many real cases, he does have to judge. And I suspect, if the Bible is true, that as far as Revelation goes, that at the end he will simply pass on the responsibilities to certain other individuals who will be able to discern in his stead. If sin is going to still exist, it's going to exist in a place where there are consequences and punishment, which would most likely be hell, but there may be other places. Not everything has been revealed, so not everything can be talked about there. But our perception of God first comes from our parents, or from the absence of our parents. It is just the first and best response that we have. The next one should be the church in that regards, where they can help provide an image of God that is understandable and relatable to us. This is important, incredibly important, since the church talks about this all the time. And I am not kidding when I say that. I've talked to many other people and they say that their identity is a child of God. That indicates it is very much like a family, if not a family. So, in that sense, it is very much understandable when I hear other people talk about God as if he is a father of some kind. The thing is, making things intimate works, and that approach can work on many levels, but on the flip side, sometimes you're too deep and that you need a different perspective, that you need to take a step back and try to understand the bigger picture of what's going on. Not everything is about us or directly involves us, even though we are involved somehow. Sometimes we are the side piece, not the centerpiece. And I wondered about that at times, where I wonder if God is the centerpiece or if he merely has made everything around him, indirectly making him the centerpiece. Simply put, if God really wants a relationship with us, by building himself into our lives, he is, in the sense, our son, while we are the planets that revolve around him. And we can choose to fly off somewhere else and revolve around, another body or another entity or whatever. The point I'm trying to say is, God has incorporated free will into us so that we can do whatever we want. But he also has established rules and other kinds of laws that we are beginning to understand in the past couple of 100 years. Gravity is one of them. Now, when I said that my view on God had changed, taking a step back may have been one of the best things that I've ever done as far as being able to understand God from outside the church's point of view. That is hard to talk about simply because the scriptures do support that, but they do not directly go after it in the same way. Many refer and point to Christ as being the fulfillment of Gospels and prophecy and other scriptures, so that when they talk about God, they do so through Jesus. Now, since Jesus is infinitely more relatable than, God, and that he is himself a human, he is the Son of God, not simply an avatar of God. But if you want to hold true to the Trinity or the Godhead about how they are one and the same, that they, in my opinion, are three individuals, three different beings with the same position and same authority, you could almost view him as an avatar in that sense. It really depends upon the relationship that they all have with one another, as well as what they share, specifically with their capabilities, their authority, and their position and all that. The Holy Spirit is almost never talked about, and when he is, the references are there, but they feel very much vague with what all is shared and the light that is shed. Now, I want to remind others that no matter what happens, God himself is someone who I believe is present because he created everything and that he wants to be a part of it, even if he has to be a part of it from a distance. There's been some conversations I've had with others in the past that has given me the idea that it could very well be possible that God chooses to live inside the earth for a while, and that, earth may not necessarily be the place of hell, because if heaven is in the skies, supposedly, as far as with a different layer, different area of where it may be, this is all speculation, really. There's nothing that says God is here or there. In reality, God could be wherever he wants, and he doesn't have a physical body that limits him, that prevents him from being whoever or whatever he wants to be, even though, according to Moses in the scripture, he does have a being that can be definitive. Either way, our perception does matter, because it is how we approach God, and it is how we, going back to what I said earlier about, anger, it is how we handle our anger. Either way, I wanted to talk about this, and, think about some, and I would like to hear your responses down below.